Good evening. It's my great pleasure to welcome all of you for today's session, and would like to spend also a few words about TiE. TiE was founded in Silicon Valley in 1992 and is being fostering entrepreneurship globally and supporting startups and small businesses in this region for more than 15 years as a Dubai chapters. And we are part of the global organization of TiE with over 60 chapters in more than 16 countries. Of course, in certain countries, we have more than one chapter, like United States or in the subcontinent. And from Dubai, we have done more than 30 virtual events since lockdown. And we do hope that these sessions have been valuable and helpful to many of you. There are different formats to these webinars, fireside chat like today, to inspire, to support panels that are addressing multiple perspectives, different topics, and also they help to tackle issue with practical knowledge, workshop, enable learning, wellness session, legal know-how. So all in all, supporting our ecosystem to combat, to let's say, to find solution to overcome these special times. And we have even one-to-one clinics with experts to advise you on specific challenges that we are all facing in one way or another nowadays. So if you like TiE, you can also follow us in Dubai, LinkedIn, YouTube, and access our events even after subsequently. This one now, of course, now we are in real time. And I would like also to acknowledge and thank all of TiE Dubai sponsors, partners, and all the charter members which are supporting us and are enabling us to make this program happening. If it was not for the support of charter member and sponsor, this would not be possible because we are a not-for-profit organization. Now, I would like also to mention TiE Women Global Pitch, which is taking the application for the MENA region right now. The application date has been extended until August 15, 2020. So you can go to our link on TiE Dubai, DubaiTiE.org, and you will get the link to apply. This is important because there is a prize of $100,000 for the final winner, and the competition is open to the MENA region. So it's open to all women with led or co-leading companies in the entire MENA region. Moving into the session of today, so in this unprecedented time, I'm happy to see that everyone is quickly embracing technology, creating new business models, changing plans, which we need to adapt. As we know from history of millennia, is not the stronger who survive or the fittest, but is the organization or the human which is more adaptable. So adaptability is the secret of success, let's say. And so in today's Fireside Chat, we'll give you an interesting insight on how pivoting into an entrepreneur that could span out all of us we are thinking too much before taking the plunge. We have to prepare ourselves, and I'm sure that this session will be inspiring many of you here. I hope all of you, because it's always possible to get energized by the special speaker that we always have here. So welcome once again. And now, before handing over to Abir Nicola Nimi is your host for the session, and I would like to briefly introduce her because she's the head of Middle East and Africa for Servify. She's a management executive, very much experienced in telecom and technology, key expertise in strategy, business development, enterprise marketing, partnership, digital transformation and innovation, so many things. She has led the strategic B2B digital transformation initiative for a regional large telecom group, developed the corporate innovation ecosystem, created strategic partnership to extend technology enterprise solution, also manage their electronic payment portfolio and strategic business accounts. She is a Sloan Fellow at Stanford, Graduate School of Business, MS in Management, holding an MBA in General Management, BS in Electrical Engineering, passionate about creating impactful business that leverage technology to improve our lives. Thank you and enjoy this very interesting session of today.
Thank you, Piero, for the nice introduction. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to TiE Dubai's first virtual fireside chat. It's my pleasure to be your host for today. And I would like to start by giving you an idea about what we'll be covering over the next 50 minutes or so. So we have three themes that we will have a conversation around, and these themes are aligned with the journey and the profile of our guest for today. So these themes are, first, pivoting. This is about pivoting from the corporate world to the entrepreneurship and startups world. And I'm sure with this environment that we're all going through right now, with the changes in the economy, in the employment opportunities, and the new business opportunities that are being presented, I'm sure many of you are thinking about making similar moves. So that's the first theme. The second theme is about an industry or a domain, which was quite niche but promising before the pandemic. However, with the pandemic, it has come to the fore, and it has been witnessing very accelerated transformation and changes. That's the online grocery. And the third theme is about being the CEO of a startup at this time with all the changes and the challenges, and how to navigate those changes and how to plan and prioritize your business going forward. So these are our themes for today. I would like to remind you that this chat is for you. So please take this opportunity to ask all the questions that you have in mind. And even if you have any ideas or thoughts that you would like to share with our guest, please do that through the Q&A button that you see on your screens. We will be answering your questions as we go, but we will make sure also to leave some time at the end to answer any questions that are not addressed. I'd like also to remind you we have two polls. One poll, you can answer it right now, and it's a poll that will help us understand your backgrounds and your interests so that we can gear our questions around that. And the other poll, you will be answering it at the end, and this will help us in planning future events. So without further ado, I would like to introduce our guest for today. Our guest is a person who had a long and successful career spanning more than 20 years at a multinational. He worked for that multinational in the US and in the region. He was in charge of a P&L exceeding $250 million. He had managed deals in multi-million dollars. And he was the managing director of Motorola Mobility in the Middle East and Africa region. However, a few years ago, he has decided to quit his job and pursue his passion for entrepreneurship and startups. So he has set up his own consultancy to engage with startups and advise them. And he has worked with startups from so many different domains, from telecom to technology, to media, to e-commerce, and so on. But the most interesting part is a few months ago, he has decided to take the helm at a technology startup, which is an online grocery platform that connects retailers with consumers and FMCG brands. And some of you, or I would imagine most of you, are familiar with this startup, and some of you may be already using it, and that's Grocer. So it's my pleasure and honor to welcome Raed Hafez, the CEO of Grocer and the TiE Dubai charter member. Welcome, Raed, and thank you for joining us for this chat.
Thank you, Abir. Thank you very much. Thanks to TiE Dubai also for hosting this, and I appreciate the very kind introduction.
You're welcome. So Raed, since I'm the host for this chat, I think I will give myself the right to ask you the first question.
Go ahead.
Yeah. So when I was looking at your profile, I think, you know, going from a successful corporate leader to an advisor to entrepreneurs and startups, and then to a CEO of a technology startup, that's like a wow journey. And I'm curious to know, how did you get to where you are today? Can you tell us more about the journey?
Sure. So, I mean, ever since I was a young kid, I always had changes, and I've always gone through transformations and either geographies or interests. So, but similar to you, I graduated as a computer engineer in the US, and I started working as an engineer with Motorola. A few years into it, I started getting more and more interested in the business side of things. I went ahead and I got my MBA, and I started taking on more managerial roles, then went from engineering management to business management. And after a few years, I went to my senior leadership and I said, look, guys, you know, I need to have, again, another change of scenery, but I've pretty much done everything within the US. So I asked them to have an international assignment. And luckily enough, I mean, the company was very good to me. So I got my assignment in Dubai to look after Middle East and Africa. And obviously, I moved here in 2007, and as you can remember, 2007, 2008, there's a lot of changes happening during those times. In about 2012, we've done some really great things here, but the company got acquired by Google. And as the company got acquired by Google, there was a lot of changes that happened there. And unfortunately, I had to go through the effort of closing down my whole region as part of restructuring that happened. I was given the opportunity to move back to the US and take on an assignment there, or to stay here. I pretty much fell in love with Dubai. I had my second child here. So I decided I'm gonna go and stay in Dubai. One thing that I really was inspired by, and I was really appreciating about Dubai, is the very vibrant entrepreneurship spirit here. So myself and a number of other colleagues, we decided to start our own advisory company. And we wanted to get involved with a number of startups on an advisory and on investment side. So we also put a small fund, and we started investing in some startups here and there. And in 2015, I got introduced to the founder of Grocer at the time, and we went in and we invested in the company. And so I've been on the board of the company for a while, and then in 2020, business really went into a whole new level, and myself and a number of other early investors had to follow up on a commitment that we made to Nader at the time, that if the business needed us, that we would jump in. And so I jumped in along with our CMO, and started taking over the company as CEO. Founder is looking after the operations as COO, and one of our colleagues also now is a CMO. So that's really where it's been. The key thing is, after 20 years in corporate life, as you said, I ran a very large region. And after having to go through a stage where I've had to make some very difficult decisions, had to let go of a number of, I had over 120 people reporting to me. Unfortunately, I had to kind of make some difficult decisions for them. So that kind of left a bad taste for me. And I was really keen on getting into entrepreneurship and startups. So that's what drove me to the new stage in my life, and kind of taking control of a bit of control of my destiny, I guess.
Excellent. So Raed, just going back to that point, or the decision-making process that you went through to plan for the specific move or pivot from corporate to entrepreneurship. Can you tell us more? Was it just simply triggered by the structural changes that happened at your company, or was it something you've been thinking about before? And how did you evaluate the decision? What were the triggers? What were the main, drivers? What are the elements that you have considered to time this decision and actually make the step?
Now, I've been involved in entrepreneurship, I would say, on a part-time basis for a very long time. I've had some small businesses on my own since the late 90s, but it was always being done on the side, along with my full-time commitment to the work. And as you can imagine, as your corporate job grows, your time availability is less and less. So I've always been interested in entrepreneurship. I've always been interested in getting into, and starting my own businesses or doing investments in startups. The changes, or the structural changes, really kind of put me into a spot where I had to make a decision. Do I go back to the US, right, and stay with a very good company and a very good corporate spot? Or do I say no? It is enough, and let me go and really see what we can do ourselves. And really, I wasn't ready to go back. I mean, that was a key thing for me. And 2012, when that decision happened, was actually a pretty good time in Dubai, right? Things have really picked up. There was a lot of opportunities within corporates. So I could have moved on to another corporate company role, but it just wasn't for me anymore. I really wanted to start, dedicating myself and build something by myself. And having a number of colleagues that, I was working with for the past, 7 years, wanting to do the same thing together, really encouraged me to just jump in. Because one thing I always tell people is, if you're going to start something, get a co-founder that you get really, get along well with. Make sure they have complementary skill sets with you. Doing it all alone is very difficult. So having a number of other people that wanted to go in together with me really helped also.
Excellent. And Raed, were there any particular, key skills or learnings or practices that you've taken with you from the corporate world into the startups world? And on the other hand, are there any skills or things that you thought you should have done more of when you were a corporate person and would have helped you more in what you're doing today?
No, I mean, absolutely. I mean, so were there skills that really benefited me? Absolutely. Every single stage of my career had, taught me things that I was able to go and build on, right? Whether it's my technical background, whether the managerial leadership skills, soft skills, negotiation, business management, looking at strategies, all of that has really helped me and into what I'm doing. And every day is a learning opportunity for me. Every day I learn something new. And that's what's really beautiful about, being in a startup. Every day there's a new challenge that you have to go through. You have to evaluate and you have to make decisions on, and then you learn from it. So were there things that really helped me from a corporate? Absolutely. Am I still learning new things? Also, absolutely.
Great. And from a personal life and family perspective, what did your family, did they have any role in shaping your decision? Were they supportive? Did it make any difference to you? Did you involve them in the whole process?
No, absolutely. I mean, it's not a you don't take that decision by yourself. It's, you know, moving from a corporate very good position in a large company to starting something on your own is a major decision. And you know, the family was very supportive. You know, there's a lot of stress. You don't forget, we moved here from the US, where, you know, we consider our home and where our family is there, and being here on our own and to go and start something is a scary decision. But and if I wouldn't have been able to do it on my own without having the support of my whole family, so that's crucial. If you're in a startup, you're having to deal with problems and firefighting on a daily basis. You have to be able to go back home and have the support, the ability to discuss, the ability to, you know, get that, you know, unlimited support in order for you to continue, keep going. So no, they had a huge role in this, and I'm, you know, very grateful for that.
And Raed, my next question is, if you want to give one piece of advice to anyone in the audience who is thinking about taking a similar step, what would that advice be?
Look, I mean, I do believe that this is definitely a decision that you have to take your own personal situation in it, right? If you are passionate about something and you do believe that you've got, you know, what it takes to take it through. Number one is, as I said, make sure you've got support. Make sure you've got your, you know, a co-founder with you, or a number of co-founders that are able to come in and support you all the way along their journey. But make sure also that your family is supportive, because it's not a decision that you should take by yourself. Having said that, you know, there are, you know, making a very drastic shift for families' lifestyle or, you know, behavior is also something that will take a toll. So make sure that you do set aside, you know, a financial cushion or a budget. You know, recognize that there's going to be some cutbacks that you have to make, but at the same time, don't put your family through a very drastic move, right? Make sure that you are ready to make something like that if you can. Then, you know, don't assume that you're going to get the same support structure when you on your own that you had when you're part of a larger company, right? If you're going to ask me what is the one large shock, is there's a number of people that I used to deal with as the managing director of Motorola, where things have completely changed when I became just, you know, an owner or manager of my own company. So you'll start learning how people's, you know, true, you know, metal or what they're made of is when you're no longer, you know, MD or VP or president of a very large multinational. And that's great. You get to know people for who they really are. So be ready for that also.
Excellent. So Raed, I'm going to move to our next topic, and I can see that it's a very hot topic because we've got our first question on this also. But before I go to the audience question, so can you help us just understand what's going on with the online grocery now? All of a sudden, it has become indispensable to all of us. We can see all the traditional, you know, grocery shops are getting online. They're establishing their online presence. The ones who are there already, they are beefing up this presence. What will happen? Where is this going? Can you give us a quick view on this?
Sure. So, I mean, we've known this all along since we started this in 2015, is that online grocery is a phenomenal opportunity. It's an essential need. It's a habit that every single one of us is involved in on a frequent basis. It's the one shopping mission that you take that you have different engagements in or different missions depending on the time of the month or the time of the week. And so you need your monthly big, shopping, you need your weekly purchases, and you have your daily or top-ups or fresh purchases. And each of those have different missions and different needs. So you have to come back and you have to, purchase. So it's a high frequency purchase. It cuts across all demographics, all incomes, and it's an essential need, which got proven by COVID that it's the one business that needed to continue to grow. So we knew there was an opportunity there. Now, the reason why people hadn't gone into it before is that the commercials for this industry are very different. In the food delivery model, some of the companies who were going into it were able to extract 25-30% gross profits, which were extremely attractive. In the grocery business, typical net profitability is around the 4 or 5%. So for you to be able to go in and ask a grocery to give you 20% is impossible. So what large companies and investors had gravitated to 2-3 years ago were the very attractive and rich food delivery models. That came to a halt in 2020 because of COVID, because of the concerns about hygiene and health. So as we all know, that business dropped quite a bit, enough for people like Uber Eats to completely exit the market. So what happened then is they saw the exponential growth in this market. Penetration for online grocery was about 0.5% last year. Our third-party estimates are assuming that it's reached almost 10% this year, and so that just opened up everybody's eyes into this industry, and that's why you see people like whether it's Kareem's or the Zomatos and others doing a pivot and starting to focus a lot more on the grocery business. So yeah, so that's the interesting part. We've been in it for a very long time, and that really allowed us to develop a strong know-how of the industry and the consumers' behaviors, and that's what we believe will give us a leg up on this.
Excellent. And Raed, let me go. I will take one of the questions from the audience, and the question is trying to understand the size of the online delivery space and headroom for growth. And I think in your previous answer, you might have given us some numbers, but specifically the question says, can you share with us some trends and numbers in the evolution of UAE retail? That's in general. Sure. Grocery retailing across formats, and finally, online delivery-based groceries. Okay.
So let me talk about grocery retail, because obviously that's the most I'm familiar with. The FMCG market in retail wise, if you take a look at it across our region, and I'll extend a little bit out, you're talking about a $500 billion market for the MENA region in the FMCG market alone. So that's a significant size. If you look at just UAE and Saudi Arabia, though that's $100 billion FMCG market. So that's a sizable market. As I mentioned, online grocery penetration last year was only 0.5%. The expectation is that jumped up to 10% this year. So you're talking about immediately a $10 billion market just in, or let's say, a $2.5 billion market just in the UAE that just came up this year. The other thing that's very interesting is the frequency, right? So a typical grocery consumer, an online grocery consumer, is shopping on a very frequent basis. And that allows businesses like ours to create some really interesting engagement opportunities. So we're talking about an exponential growth this year. Now, there's a lot of concern about, is that only happening due to COVID lockdowns, or do we expect this market to go down back to its old habits? And I do believe there will be a drop, right? So people have come back out, and they're more interested in shopping online, shopping in the stores. But we've done a recent survey, and 34% of consumers surveyed tell us that they're still concerned about going into the store due to COVID. So we do believe that there is going to be a new baseline. The online grocery penetration is going to come down from the during COVID levels, but the pre-COVID is no longer a consideration. We're now at least at 2 to 3 times the size of the business, of the volume on a daily basis. We only expect that to continue to grow.
Good. And Raed, I'll take another question also from the audience. Is the online grocery space in UAE and in MENA already competitive, or there is space for newer startups with different and competitive models?
There is a lot of players in this space right now, but it all matters about consumer engagement, and what matters is what are you offering the consumers? And there are certain needs that maybe none of us are fulfilling properly. So is there a room? Yes, I do believe there's always room, and this is not in the ride hailing business, you were ordering a ride and pricing was pretty much the same. You got the exact same car, so there was not a lot of room for differentiation, and so you ended up with a market with 2 big players. Anytime a third player tried to come in, they couldn't really make much of a dent. In the grocery market, as I mentioned, there are a number of missions, consumer shopping missions, and there are different demographics, different needs, different budgets. And so specializing in one of those areas, specializing in one of those missions, always gives you a differentiation. One thing we found out in our survey is that average number of shopping apps on every one user is about 4. So every one of us has at least 4 different grocery apps on their smartphone, and they obviously have identified a different niche and a different need for each of them. So yeah, I do believe there is more room for competition and more room for differentiation.
Good. And there's also another interesting question from the audience. Do you see physical supermarkets and grocery going online and competing with the online startups?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the physical guys, some of them had a very good head start, right? Some of them didn't really invest enough in what they had. This is all pre-COVID. And then, so those who had a very good head start really did well. And during COVID, they continued and they doubled or tripled or quadrupled their investments, and have made some very large announcements recently with regards to some dedicated warehousing. So those who had identified it and just accelerated it were able to really continue making a dent. There were others that were doing the token participation, and unfortunately during COVID, their tech completely fell apart, or their logistics handling completely fell apart, and that really set them back. And then there were others that didn't really believe in online, and now as a complete reaction, just recently launched some of their online channels. Now, so do I believe they're going to make a dent? Yes, they have the the catalog, they have the existing geographical, placement and distribution. But what I always say is physical retailers are phenomenal at procurement and merchandising. There is so much more to do when it comes to online grocery, across whether it's logistics, whether it's cataloging, whether it's consumer engagement, whether it's customer acquisition, whether it's after sales service. And unfortunately, those who think that going into online grocery is about getting an app or launching a website are going to be sorely surprised. But those who take it seriously and invest in all of these areas, then yes, they will be worthy competitions for sure.
Excellent. I'm seeing more interesting questions coming from the audience. So that's another one for you. Okay. So for emerging FMCG brands, how do they create awareness online? In traditional grocery retailing, they would invest in shelf space and gondolas. In an online environment, the homepage has limited real estate. So how does a smaller brand create awareness or be relevant on an online grocery site like El Grocer?
No, absolutely. So one thing that's, you talked about the homepage and the homepage space where assuming it's an advertisement driven, right? But the one thing that we're looking at with El Grocer is to identify engagement opportunities based on behavioral and based on actions, rather than just talking about an ad space. You launch the app and you get the offer. It's still something that we do, but that's not the end all be all. Being able to provide offers based on actions or based on personas, being able to actually make recommendations based on certain behavior or certain, where are you within your journey within the app, is enabling us to provide a much bigger opportunity for brands to engage their consumers. So on the online side, I do believe the opportunity is much bigger for emerging brands to do so. We tend to be a lot more creative. We tend to be a lot more responsive. Just imagine, if you are a brand and a retailer and you want to do a buy one, get one, that is a heck of a lot of work with, creating those special co-packs and creating the special SKUs and the offers. And with us, in less than a day, we're able to do a simple, a combo and communicate it and enable it. So I do believe emerging brands have a lot more opportunities to work with online groceries, online players like ours, to get their message out there and to reach out to their consumers.
Great. And there's another question which is related to, you've mentioned earlier that you think that the baseline for online grocery adoption will change. It will drop after the pandemic, but it won't go back to what it was before the pandemic. So the question here is, how do you see online grocery penetration 5 years from now? From 10% today to maybe 8% next year post-COVID? What do you say?
No, it'll be larger. We do believe that that behavior is going to continue. All the players are going to continue to invest in their online. So again, we're trying to get a lot of observations from our consumers. And consumers, while COVID is going to be a temporary fear, but people have sensed and have really felt the convenience that they can get from engaging with online grocers, the time saving, and people are now valuing that a lot more. So it's important for them to not spend hours on end battling the crowds, getting a parking spot, or battling the crowds, getting a space on the checkout line. So that will continue to grow. Specific numbers, I would say, I'm just going to say it's going to be larger than 10%. And I do believe that within 5 years, online grocery is going to be a mainstream way of shopping.
Okay, excellent. And the next question is about omni-channel retailing. So the question is, what are your thoughts on omni-channel retailing with respect to grocery products?
I mean, omni-shopping is, or omni-channel is it's been used quite a bit as and overused as a term. The ability to be able to engage your consumer no matter how they get to you, and be context, save that context and continue the conversation from where you started. That sounds fantastic. Having said that, when it comes to groceries, right, the transaction is mainly about purchasing, and our baskets tend to be large. So if I want to go and take that over to a messaging platform, shopping groceries on WhatsApp, for example, that becomes a very complicated experience and not a great experience, right? Our typical baskets have at least about 10 to 15 items, and being able to navigate those and search for them, and our average catalog for a store is about 10,000 SKUs. We have a total of 80,000 SKUs in our platform alone. So being able to carry on that conversation without really getting the consumer tired is difficult. So we try to make sure that our customer support, that our engagement is all context sensitive, but carrying out the transaction across other channels rather than your app, we still haven't seen that. And how would we take that further?
Okay, and here is an interesting question about super apps.
Yeah.
So the question says, we're seeing the emergence of the super app like Careem and Noon. Is it fair to compare the super app to a hypermarket in the physical retail space? And do super apps risk becoming too confusing as they try to get into too many verticals or services?
Yeah, so my personal opinion is super apps are, I mean, so let's start from where did they start from, right? I mean, the chat applications in China integrated payment functionality, right? And once they started doing that, they started enabling commerce across a lot of different segments. And that really created this super app where you've got, a majority of people exchanging and interacting and purchasing all from this one app. Now, I know that Careem is trying to do the same thing, and I know that Noon is competing and trying to do the same thing. But unfortunately, what's happening now is that either you rely on these third parties to plug in with those services so that you can, enable having multiple services from one place, or you have to go and invest in enabling these. The approach, so you've got Noon that's investing and is actually building their vertical stacks for each of their services on their own. And then you've got Careem that's actually partnering up. We'll see which one will win. They both are very worthy, players and extremely competitive, and be interested to see which model will work out and will win. Will they compete with hypermarkets? Most of them are only looking at, providing top-up or providing, small baskets. Hypermarkets with their very large and very wide SKUs, that shopping, journey requires a very different level of engagement. So I don't know if they bring a significant threat to hypermarkets, but they're going to be a big player in the market. Our approach is we want to be razor sharp focused on groceries, and all the adjacent categories. So I'm very much keen and happy to enable, you know, roasteries. I'm very much keen and happy to enable bakeries. They all happen to be in the same front, but I'm most likely not interested in enabling maid services, right? It just doesn't fit within what we're offering, what we're doing. So we will continue to enable to maximize that consumer behavior that allows, you know, a rich shopping journey and experience. But I don't think we will go and fragment ourselves into so many different categories. I don't know. I must have pissed off a lot of people with my answer. So.
Okay, here is another question about traditional retailers going online. So the question says, how do you see traditional brick and mortar FMCG retailers addressing the online space? And do you see them entering the online space in a big way? How big a threat is that to a pure play online retailer like yourself?
So we're not a pure play. So that's first correction. We are a marketplace. We actually connect the retailers with the shoppers and the brands, and that's what we believe is our strongest asset. Will physical retailers get into online? They have to. There's no longer a choice, right? I think the COVID has pretty much killed any doubt with any business, any retail business having to have an online channel. So will they create a threat? I think there'll be a lot of confusion for a while, but you know, as I said before, if they take it seriously and they invest in it, then they will make a dent. If they think that it's all it takes is creating an app or a website, then they're in for a big surprise.
Good. So there's another question related to apps. So do you think there are way too many online grocery apps that have mushroomed recently? Do you see room to play for smaller players online, or will this be a boom-bust cycle leading to consolidation?
Yeah, I mean, as I said, there's a lot of players that came in, and it's because so there are a number of players that came in because they saw the expansion in groceries, and that was the only thing they went and do. And then there's a number of other players that actually pivoted from doing food delivery into doing also grocery delivery because they had to. The food delivery model just completely disappeared. So they had to protect what they were doing. Or they simply had to accelerate getting into groceries because they saw now it's the time. Is there room for any new players? As I mentioned earlier, yes, there is room. But if you're going to do exactly the same thing that everybody else is doing, then you're not going to be able to attract the customers. If you're going to do something differently, if you're going to have a different value proposition, or you're going to focus on just a certain niche, then yes, you could succeed in this market. And I welcome everybody to come in.
Good. So here's the next question from an entrepreneur who is actually interested into entering the online grocery. The question is, could you share pro tips for entrepreneurs looking to enter into online grocery in this market and establish a competitive and sustainable model?
So you want to come in to compete with me and you want me to advise? All right, let's see how we can do that. So look, I touched on it several times. You want to go in with online groceries. It's a very interesting business. But if you're going in thinking that it's just creating an app, then you're wrong. Online groceries is an extremely operational intensive business. And there are so many different touch points with the consumers, with the retailers, with the brands, with logistics partners. So all of these are, complexities that need to be taken into consideration. If you're going to go in just by, price competition, that's not going to work. We're already in a very thin margin business, and efficiency, which is driven by volume, will only work there. If you're looking to go in and just do the same thing as everybody else does, and get your fair share, again, that's not going to work because it's going to take a lot of money to go and build a brand and get the trust of your customers. The only way for you to succeed is to have something different, is to have a focus on a certain niche, a focus on a certain need, or find your niche, find your something that you can shout about that only you can claim, and then you've got it. Technology, just to start, is not your biggest hurdle. It's building the network, it's building the logistics and the operation. And so if you're going to go in and you're a technical person, make sure to partner up with a strong operational person, and make sure you have someone who knows the industry. This industry has a lot of unique aspects that you need to be familiar with before you get in.
Excellent. So Raed, now I'm going to move and take the questions that are specifically related to Grocer.
Okay.
So I remember hearing you once saying that your aim is to redefine how grocery shopping is done in this region. And this question says, what are the key differentiators for Grocer versus other online grocery companies?
Okay, so thanks. So number one, as I said, we are razor sharp focus on groceries. So you're not going to get a maid's offer when you're going into our platform. The number two is, because we're focusing on groceries, the shopping experience is really tuned to how groceries are organized, how they're structured, and what we look for is to improve the discoverability of your products, and the fastest way to gather the products that you're looking for. We want to make sure that this, because you're doing it on a very frequent basis, it needs to be very simple and very convenient. It needs to be intuitive. It needs to know what you need before you even specify what you needed. So we aim a lot on building AI capability to do recommendation engines of what you have done before or what your lookalikes have done before. We look at simplifying the shopping journey so that you can get to what you want in the fastest way possible. We build a very large catalog so that it's a very high likelihood when you're searching for what you want, you will find it with us. And that's why we partner with a very large network. And we partner with a large network that can satisfy the different shopping missions that you have. So whether you're looking for just that quick daily top up, or you're looking for your organic fruits and veg, or you're looking for, you're in the mood for a very good steak, and you're looking for that, gourmet steak from a butchery that you know of, all of that is available on our network. So that's where we differentiate. That's what we, aim to continue to do, and we believe we have a leg up on a lot of the competition with.
Great. So we're almost running out of time. But I would still like to go through the questions that we have. So Raed, can you give us like quick answers? And I'll go through the questions quickly. Okay. This is a question about the customer acquisition. So the question is, in your experience, what were the communication and marketing channels that best helped you in your customer acquisition strategy?
I mean, it's the standard ones, right? So you're talking about social media, you're talking about email marketing, SMS marketing. It's nothing unique, but you just need to make sure the message is very clear. So that's what I would say are the key channels for acquisition.
Another question also related to acquisition. Do you see an evolution in the online customer acquisition space that a budding e-commerce entrepreneur should keep an eye out for?
Do I see an evolution in say that again, just the last?
Okay. Do you see an evolution in the online customer acquisition space that a budding e-commerce entrepreneur should keep an eye out for?
Yeah, I mean, look, there's a lot of new technologies in, whether you're looking at CDP or you're looking at other technologies to acquire or to target customers. The other thing is that's what's going to happen now, and anybody who's online needs to be aware of, is iOS is making a significant change in their platform to improve and bolster consumer privacy. Now, that's phenomenal. That's great for all of us. Having said that, that has a huge impact on how do you profile, how do you target, how do you segment consumers. And so there is a movement, or there is a change coming up into how do you get, customers, how do you target them. And there's going to be more and more of network of first customer data owners that are going to be cooperating with each other in order for them to allow for sharing data rather than relying on this, IDFA-driven data from that's going to stop very soon.
Okay, so Raed, we have a few minutes left, and I have two questions which are related to investments. But the first one is, what gave you the confidence to invest in Grocer when you did? Did you imagine it would reach to where it has, or was that just blind luck?
No, I have had a very big, faith in the founder. We have founders that knew the industry. We had very strong technology background, and we had strong people that knew operations and the logistics part. Getting those three aspects and domain know-how into one set of people that wanted to go and launch this is what made us confident about it. And I think that goes with any investment. You got to look at the founders, and you're investing in them, not just the idea. So that's what gave us the confidence. Now, the idea of digital transformation or going to groceries was, an obvious one. Once somebody brought it up to you, it's something that you're getting involved in on a daily basis. So, but it was the founders that really we were very confident about.
Yeah. And here's another question. Would you be open to collaborating, advising, or investing in an online grocery startup having different and unique model?
So, I mean, obviously, advisory would potentially a conflict of interest. If you're going to be competing or anything like that, I would love to. I'm always available through TiE to provide, advisory or mentoring. But it's up to you if you really want to be, providing anything like that. I would think for me right now in my current role, there may be a bit of a conflict of interest, and for your own protection, probably I'm not the best one to be advising you, especially if you have something that's unique and special about how to enter online grocery.
Okay, and another question that we had earlier on Grocer, it says, do you see Grocer creating their own private labels going forward?
I mean, it's the same question as do I want to go and open up my own warehouse, right? I'm either competing with my retailers or I'm competing with the brands. So today our vision, our mission is to connect the consumers with the retailers and brands. And we want to do it in the best way possible. I don't have any plans to be creating our own private labels.
And Raed, we are done actually, but I have two more questions and I'll ask these very quickly. You can give me quick answers.
Sure.
The first one is, do you have any numbers of InstaShop versus Grocer versus Lulu or others? Any numbers from, I'm sure it might be difficult to get.
We know that we're a very large player in the market. Numbers obviously are all, anecdotal, so we can't really quote them.
Okay. And then to my last question, it's someone who's interested to work with, collaborate with Grocer. We would like to offer food products sourced direct from Pakistan to Grocer consumers. How do we do that?
So today we don't import, because we don't actually buy the products that we sell. We're a marketplace. We would have to work with an existing distributor. So if there is an existing distributor that is importing these products, more than happy, we've done that. We do a lot of D2C, direct to consumer enablement. But you can imagine the number of people that approached us. I've got people from Brazil and from other locations that want to ship us products. We don't get involved in purchasing the products.
Raed, we have reached the end of our conversation. Thank you very much for a very insightful and informative chat. And thank you very much to all the attendees that joined us and for all those who have asked us questions. And I hope you've found this to be useful and beneficial for you. Please take a moment to answer our event survey, and we look forward to seeing you in our next events. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Abir. Thank you, TiE.
Thanks.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thanks. Bye-bye.